Here's a fact that most people won't tell you. About 90% of the disrespect you feel isn't actually happening. I'm serious. You're walking around feeling hurt, angry, and dismissed, but most of it exists only in your head. Now, before you click away angry, let me explain. Some disrespect is real, yes, but the chronic feeling that everyone disrespects you, that's coming from inside your own mind. And once you understand the mechanism behind it, you can shut it off like a light switch. Let me show you how. Look, I get it. You're tired of feeling invisible. You walk into a room and people talk over you. You share an idea at work and nobody responds. Your partner forgets what you said 5 minutes ago. And inside, you're screaming, "Why doesn't anyone respect me?" Here's what most therapists won't tell you, but I will. You're not crazy. This feeling is real to you, but it's based on a lie your brain keeps telling you. A lie about what respect is, what you need, and what other people owe you. I spent my entire career, over 50 years, helping people with exactly this problem. And I discovered something revolutionary. The people who feel constantly disrespected aren't actually being disrespected more than anyone else. They're just running a different program in their heads. A program that turns normal human behavior into evidence of disrespect. The good news? Once you understand this program, you can rewrite it. Not with positive thinking bullshit, not with affirmations, but with clear, logical thinking that actually works. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why you feel disrespected, which of your beliefs are creating this feeling, and what to do about it starting today. No guru nonsense, just practical psychology that works. So here's where we need to start. The chronic feeling of disrespect you're experiencing comes from something very specific. It comes from a demand, an invisible demand that's running in the background of your mind every single day. And this demand is destroying your peace of mind. Here's where people get confused. It's perfectly normal to want respect, to prefer that people listen to you. But somewhere along the way, you turned that preference into a demand. You started believing that people must respect you. And that's where everything went wrong. Let me explain the difference. When you want something, you're saying, "I'd like this to happen, but if it doesn't, I can handle it." When you demand something, you're saying, "This must happen, and if it doesn't, I can't stand it." It's awful. It's terrible. Do you see the difference? You might be thinking right now, "But Albert, is it really so bad to expect respect?" And look, I'm not saying you shouldn't want respect. I'm saying the word must is what's killing you. Because when you demand that people must respect you, and they don't, you feel horrible. You feel angry. You feel hurt. You feel like something terrible has happened. But here's the truth. Nothing terrible has happened. Someone just didn't behave the way you demanded they behave. That's it. But because you turned your preference into a must, you're suffering. Let me give you an example. You're at work. You suggest an idea in a meeting. Your coworker interrupts you and talks over your idea with their own suggestion. Now, you feel disrespected. Your blood pressure goes up. You're angry for the rest of the day. You go home and complain about it. You lose sleep over it. But let's look at what actually happened. Your coworker interrupted you. That's the fact. That's all that happened. But in your mind, you added something. You added, "My coworker must not interrupt me. They should have listened. They should have respected my idea." Those are your demands. And those demands are what created your suffering, not the interruption itself. I call this masturbation. You're must and G all over yourself. You've got all these invisible shoulds and musts running in your head, and every time reality doesn't match your musts, you feel terrible. Here's another must you probably carry around. People should recognize my worth. They should see how hard I work. They should appreciate my efforts. And when they don't, you feel disrespected. But where is it written that they should? Where's the law of the universe that says people must recognize your worth? I'll tell you where. Nowhere. It's a demand you made up. And now you're upset because reality isn't obeying your made-up rule. Let me prove this to you right now. Think about the last time you felt really disrespected. Got it. Now ask yourself this question. What was I demanding in that moment? What did I believe must happen that didn't happen? I guarantee you were demanding something. Your boss must acknowledge your work. Your friend must return your call. Your kids must listen when you speak. Your partner must appreciate what you do. Every single time you feel disrespected, There's a must hiding underneath. And here's why this is so destructive. When you demand that others must respect you, you're giving them complete control over your emotional state. You're basically saying, my happiness depends on you behaving exactly the way I want. That's not strength. That's emotional slavery. You've made yourself a prisoner of everyone else's behavior. Think about it. If you need other people to respect you to feel okay, then you're never in control. You're always at their mercy. They have the power, not you. Is that really what you want? Now, some of you are thinking, but shouldn't people respect me? Isn't that just basic decency? And that's a good question. That brings us to the second thing you need to understand. You've got a completely backward idea of what respect actually is. Most people think respect is something out there, that it's something people either give you or don't give you, like handing you a trophy. But that's not how it works. Respect is an interpretation in your mind, not an action someone else takes. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine someone doesn't say hello to you in the morning. They just walk right past you. Now, is that disrespect? You might say yes. But what if they were distracted? What if they were thinking about a sick parent? What if they just didn't see you? Same behavior, but suddenly it's not disrespect anymore, is it? The behavior didn't change. What changed was your interpretation. You decided whether it was disrespect or not. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. You're the one creating the disrespect in most cases, not them. Now let me tell you about 3 levels of respect, because this is important. The first level is basic human respect. That's treating someone as a person with rights. Not harming them, not violating them. This you do deserve. This is basic decency. And here's the thing. Most people give you this automatically. They're not trying to harm you. They're just living their lives. The second level is earned respect. That's admiration for your achievements, your character, your abilities. This is what people give you when you do something impressive. But here's what you need to understand. You can't demand this. You can work for it, but you can't force people to admire you. The third level is self-respect. That's how you think about yourself, how you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself. And this is the only level that actually matters. Because if you have self-respect, you don't need the other levels nearly as much. You're okay regardless of what others think. But here's what you're doing. You're running around trying to force everyone to give you level 2, the earned respect, when you haven't even built level 3, the self-respect. You're begging others to validate you while you're treating yourself like garbage in your own mind. And here's another thing you're doing that's making everything worse. You're mind reading. You're deciding what people think about you based on tiny little behaviors, and you're usually wrong. Your coworker didn't respond to your email, so you decide she doesn't respect me. But did she actually say that? Did she actually think that? Or are you just making it up? Because I've got news for you. You're not a psychic. You don't know what people are thinking, but you act like you do, and then you get upset about the thoughts you invented for them. Maybe she didn't respond because she's overwhelmed. Maybe she missed the email. Maybe she meant to respond later. But you've already written the whole story in your head. She thinks I'm unimportant. She doesn't value me. And now you're suffering over a story you made up. This is what I mean when I say most of the disrespect isn't real. You're creating it with your interpretations and your mind reading and your demands. Here's the real definition of respect that I want you to understand. True respect isn't about controlling other people's behavior. It's about not needing their validation to feel okay. It's about saying, I know my worth regardless of what you think of me. I prefer you treat me well, but I don't need it. And if you don't, I'll take appropriate action without falling apart. That's real respect. That's real power. And here's what's beautiful. The people who feel most respected are the people who need it least. Think about that. The people walking around confident and secure aren't the ones getting more respect from others. They're the ones who stop demanding it. When you stop needing everyone to validate you, suddenly you feel more validated. When you stop interpreting everything as disrespect, suddenly you experience less disrespect. It's like magic, except it's not magic. It's just how your brain works. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, but Albert, some people are actually rude to me. What about that? And you're right. Let's talk about when disrespect is actually real and what to do about it. Look, I'm not saying all disrespect is in your head. Sometimes people are rude. Sometimes people do treat you badly. I'm not some positive thinking fool who pretends everyone is nice. People can be jerks. But here's what you need to understand. Even when people genuinely treat you poorly, your demandingness about it is what creates your suffering, not the behavior itself. Let me give you a way to test if disrespect is real. Ask yourself, would an objective observer agree that this was rude? Is there a pattern of this behavior? Is it clearly inconsiderate? If yes to all three, okay, maybe it's real disrespect. But even when it is real, you still have a choice about how disturbed you get about it. This is the part most people don't understand. They think, well, if someone is rude to me, of course I should be upset. But that's not true. You don't have to be upset. Let me explain how this works. There's an activating event, that's A. Someone is rude to you. Then there's a belief, that's B. Your belief about that rudeness. Then there's a consequence, that's C. The emotional consequence, your anger or hurt. Now, most people think a cause is C. They think the rude behavior causes their upset. But that's wrong. B causes C. Your belief causes your upset. And what's your belief? It's usually something like, they must not be rude to me. They shouldn't treat me this way. It's awful that they disrespected me. Change that belief from must not to I prefer they weren't, and watch your suffering drop by 70%. I'm serious. Same situation, same rude behavior, but you're not devastated anymore. You're just annoyed, which is appropriate. So when someone genuinely disrespects you, here's what you do. You acknowledge it happened. You decide if you need to address it. If you do, you address it calmly. You say something like, I don't appreciate that behavior. I need you to stop. And then you move on. You don't ruminate. You don't demand they change. You don't make it mean something about your worth. You can stand up for yourself without falling apart emotionally. These are two different skills. Most people think they need to be really upset to justify taking action. But that's nonsense. You can set a boundary while being completely calm. Let me give you a way to tell if your beliefs are the problem or if the situation is the problem. If everyone seems to disrespect you, if you're constantly feeling dismissed by different people in different situations, that's data that your belief system is creating the problem. If one person consistently disrespects you in a pattern, that's data about that specific relationship. Learn to tell the difference. Most people coming to therapy for feeling disrespected need to work on their thinking. So need to work on their boundaries. You need to figure out which one is you. And look, some of you have genuinely toxic people in your lives. Bosses who demean you. Partners who dismiss you. Friends who use you. I'm not saying stay in those situations. I'm saying you can leave them without being emotionally destroyed. You don't demand that rain not fall. You just grab an umbrella. Same with rude people. You don't demand they change. You just protect yourself. You might distance yourself. You might end the relationship. You might look for a new job. But you do it from a place of strength, not from a place of must. Now, let's get practical. How do you actually stop feeling disrespected all the time? I'm going to teach you a method that will change your life if you actually use it. I call it disputation. It's how you rewire your brain. First, you have to catch yourself in the act. Next time you feel that familiar feeling of disrespect, stop. Just pause and ask yourself this question. What am I demanding right now? What am I insisting must happen? You'll find something. You'll find a must or should hiding in there. My boss must acknowledge my work. My friend should have texted me back. My partner must appreciate what I do for them. Find a demand. Get specific. Write it down if you need to. Now, here's where the magic happens. You're going to challenge that belief. You're going to ask yourself questions that force you to see reality instead of your demands. First question, where is the evidence that people must respect me? And be honest. Where is it written? Where's the law of the universe that says you must be respected? There isn't one. You can want it. You can prefer it. But there's no evidence that it must happen. Second question, is it really true that I need their respect to be happy? Or is it just something I prefer? Because need and prefer are very different words. You need food and water. You don't need your coworkers' approval. You just prefer it. Third question, what's the worst thing that happens if they don't respect me? Really think about this. Usually, the worst thing is just that you feel bad. But you're already feeling bad because of your demand, so that doesn't count. What actually happens? Usually nothing. Life goes on. You're okay. Fourth question, am I confusing preference with necessity? Am I taking something I'd like and turning it into something I must have? Because that's what you're doing. You've taken a preference and upgraded it to a demand, and now you're suffering. These questions sound simple, but they're incredibly powerful. They force you to look at reality instead of your made-up rules. And when you really ask them honestly, you start to see how irrational your demands are. Now, once you've disputed the irrational belief, you replace it with a rational one. This is crucial. You don't just knock down the old belief and leave a hole. You fill it with something better. So you take your irrational belief, my coworker must listen when I speak, and you replace it with, I strongly prefer my coworker listens when I speak, but there's no law that says they must. If they don't, that's unfortunate, but I can handle it. I'm okay either way. Notice the difference? You still have the preference. You'd still like them to listen, but you've removed the demand. You've removed the must, and that changes everything about how you feel. Now, I need to tell you something important. This isn't one and done. Your brain has been running the old program for years, maybe decades. You got to practice this. Every single time you feel disrespected, you pause, you identify the demand, you dispute it, you replace it. At first, it feels mechanical, like you're arguing with yourself, like it's fake. Good. That means you're doing it right. You're supposed to feel that way at first. You're learning a new skill. But here's what happens. Over time, this new way of thinking becomes automatic. You start catching your demands faster. You start disputing them without even thinking about it. And the feelings of disrespect start to fade. Not overnight, but over weeks and months, you'll notice a real difference. Most people start feeling significantly better within 2 to 3 weeks of consistent practice. Within a couple of months, they look back and can't believe they used to feel disrespected all the time. That's what I want for you. And here's something beautiful that happens. When you stop demanding respect from others, you naturally build more self-respect. You know why? Because you're not giving your power away anymore. You're not making yourself a victim of everyone else's behavior. You're saying, I'm okay regardless of what you think of me. That's real confidence. That's real strength. Now, I want to address something that comes up a lot. Some of you are thinking, but Albert, if I stop demanding respect, won't people walk all over me? Won't I become a doormat? This is a huge misunderstanding. I need to clear it up. Dropping your demands doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger. Let me explain why. When you demand respect, what are you really saying? You're saying, you must treat me well or I'll be devastated. You must respect me or I can't handle it. That's weakness. You've given them all the power. But when you have preferences and boundaries without demands, you're saying something very different. You're saying, I prefer you treat me well. I'd like that. But if you don't, I'll be okay. I'll handle it. I'll take appropriate action. See the difference? A demand sounds like, you must treat me well or I'll fall apart. A boundary sounds like, I prefer you treat me well, and if you don't, I'll limit my interaction with you. One is begging. One is strength. You can set boundaries without demands. In fact, you'll set better boundaries when you drop the demands. Because when you're not emotionally devastated, you think more clearly. You act more effectively. Let's say someone crosses a line with you. They say something rude. Here's how you handle it without demands. You say calmly, I don't appreciate that behavior. I need you to stop. You're not angry. You're not hurt. You're just clear. And then, if they continue, you take action. You distance yourself. You end the conversation. You adjust the relationship. You don't need to be upset to set a boundary. You don't need to be angry to take action. In fact, the calmer you are, the more effective you are. Because you're not trying to make them change. You're not demanding they must respect you. You're simply stating what you'll accept and what you won't. Here's what's powerful about this. When you stop demanding respect, you become unshakable. Nothing they do or don't do determines your value. You know your worth regardless. And ironically, when you become unshakable, people often treat you better. Not because you demanded it, but because you stopped acting like you needed it. The people who command the most respect are the people who need it least. Now you understand why. They're not walking around demanding that everyone validate them. They're secure in themselves. And that security is magnetic. You can leave a job without feeling worthless. You can end a relationship without falling apart. You can stand up to someone without being emotionally destroyed. That's real power. That's what I want for you. All right, let me pull this all together for you. Let me give you a simple framework you can use starting today. This is your new operating system for dealing with feelings of disrespect. Start each morning with this reminder. Say to yourself, other people's behavior is about them, not me. I prefer respect, but I don't need it to be okay. This sounds like a little thing, but it sets your entire emotional tone for the day. You're reminding yourself that your worth is not up for vote. Then, throughout the day, when you feel that familiar feeling of disrespect, here's what you do. Pause. Just stop for a second. Notice the feeling, and then ask yourself, what am I demanding right now? What am I carrying? Once you find the demand, dispute it. Ask, where's the evidence they must behave differently? Is there a law of the universe I don't know about? And then replace it. Say, I prefer they acted differently, but I don't need it. I can handle this. This takes 30 seconds, but it saves you hours of suffering. It saves you from ruminating all day. It saves you from going home angry. It saves you from losing sleep. 30 seconds for all that? That's a pretty good deal. Then, at the end of each day, do a quick review. Think about when you felt disrespected. What were you demanding? Don't judge yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Just observe. You're learning your patterns. You're studying yourself. And here's what's important. Celebrate every time you caught a demand and disputed it. Every time you chose a preference over a must. Every time you stayed calm instead of falling apart. Those are victories. Acknowledge them. Over time, you'll catch your demands faster and faster. They won't control you anymore. You'll see them coming. And eventually, you'll stop making them altogether. You'll prefer things, but you won't demand them. And that's when you're free. Here's what I want you to understand. You've been living in a prison made of your own demands. A prison where your happiness depends on everyone else behaving exactly how you think they should. And I just gave you the key. The freedom isn't in getting more respect. The freedom is in needing it less. It's in knowing that you're okay regardless of what anyone thinks of you. It's in having preferences without demands. It's in building self-respect instead of begging for external validation. And here's something beautiful that will happen. When you stop demanding respect, you'll actually experience more of it. Not because people change, but because you stop interpreting everything as disrespect. You take off the glasses that made everything look like an insult. And suddenly, life looks very different. This isn't about becoming cold. It's not about not caring. It's about becoming strong and free. It's about having preferences and boundaries without emotional devastation. It's about being powerful instead of being a victim. Now, I know this is hard. I know part of you wants to hold onto the belief that people should respect you, that they must treat you well, that you need their validation. But ask yourself, how's that working for you? Has demanding respect made you feel more respected? Or has it made you feel worse? You know the answer. You've tried demanding respect for years, maybe your whole life, and it hasn't worked. So maybe it's time to try something different. Maybe it's time to drop the demands and build real self-respect instead. This isn't an overnight transformation. You've got years of old thinking to undo. But if you practice what I taught you today, if you catch your demands, dispute them, and replace them, you will start feeling different. Within weeks, you'll notice changes. Within months, you'll look back and barely recognize the person who felt disrespected all the time. You've been disrespecting yourself every time you demanded that others validate you. Every time you gave them the power to determine your worth. Every time you collapsed emotionally because someone didn't meet your expectations. That's self-disrespect. Real self-respect means saying, I know my worth regardless of what you think of me. I prefer you treat me well, but I don't need it. And if you don't, I'll take appropriate action without falling apart. That's freedom. That's power. That's what I want for you. You've got this. Now go do the work. And listen, if you want to go even deeper into this, I've got another video you need to watch. It's called How to Stop Caring What People Think of You. And in it, I break down the exact mental techniques I use to stay completely unfazed by criticism, judgment, and rejection. Because here's what I didn't tell you yet. Even after you stop feeling disrespected, you might still care way too much about what people think. And that's a whole other prison. In that video, I'll show you the specific thoughts and questions that make you psychologically bulletproof. It's some of my most powerful work, and it fits perfectly with what you just learned here. Click on that video right now. Don't wait. Your future self will thank you. I'll see you there.